Raho, welcome back to another live session uh, with Zaniheza. I am Charles Kishi, your host and the founder of Zaniheza. As you joined us, if it's your first time, kindly tell us where you are watching us from. Um, and if it's not your first time, well, say hello. As always, let me know how is the sound because hey, we are live and some technical issues may happen, um, such as um, the way when we go live. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to our channel, Zaniheza. For those of you who are first time here and are wondering what is Zaniheza? Zaniheza, we are primarily a travel company. We aim to provide experiences when you travel to Rwanda and focus on culture, on technology, and as well as excellent customer service. Um, yeah, in a nutshell. Um, Today's guest, I am always welcome um, or excited. Thank you. I have confirmation that the sound is amazing. Oh, before I forget, if it's your first time, you may want to subscribe. We have a goal of reaching 5,000. 5,000. Help us get to that numbers. It's not about the viewers only. We have amazing content that you can enjoy. We have amazing shows on travel, business, and culture. Today's guest, I'm such um, honored to have him. He is an entrepreneur. Some of our viewers have expressed interest in investing in Africa. And hey, I found you the perfect person. Um, he has launched many businesses in Africa and Europe. So this is your guy. It's your question, and he was recently appointed as the country director of the Norrsken. We will talk about that. It's rather exciting. So without further ado, I would say grab your pen, grab your paper, or your tea, or your water, and let's get this started. Let's welcome to our channel, Monsieur, Mr. Murasira. Hello there.
Hello, Charles.
That was such a long intro. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
This is the first time we actually do our how should we call this e-conference face to face. Welcome to Zaniheza YouTube channel. It's my pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for your time. This is going to be a lively and I should say informative chat. My first question will be for those who don't know you. I mean, we've put in the description that you were born on a cassava farm. Tell us about you. Who is Mr. Murasira?
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for having me. Um, it's always an interesting question when you are asked to introduce yourself because you don't know exactly where to start and where to end. But in a nutshell, I'm Rwandan. So I was born in Kinazi, Ruhango district. So probably not many people in your audience know about Kinazi, but they have probably heard of Kinazi cassava. So it's a region that's famous for cassava crop in Rwanda. And so I grew up in the same region, and later I moved because of school. And also because of work, I moved to Kigali, and later on I moved to the Netherlands, where I'm currently based. But I still do travel a lot to Rwanda and other African countries not just because I still have family in Rwanda, I still have businesses in Rwanda, but also because I believe that that's where the future is. That's where the center of growth will come even today, but also in generations to come. So I think that's a little bit about myself, and I'm looking forward to going further into details as your questions or the questions from your audience keep coming.
Thank you, and we shall go into details.
I want that.
We have many viewers who want to invest in Africa, and myself, through my company, I have made that step with Zaniheza. Now, I will get back to what you just said. It is the center where many good things, I assume, in the business are happening. By the way, congratulations on your new role. I think that is a quite big role, wouldn't you say? Being the man who is going to be leading the next biggest hub of, as they said on the website, innovation and as well as entrepreneurship. Are you looking forward to such tasks? Are you excited?
Well, yeah, indeed. Thank you. I'm pretty much excited. But not necessarily about the role, because I will be part of a bigger team, the team that's already there today, but also the team we are going to build. But I'm more excited about the mission of Norrsken as an organization, and also all the great things we can achieve if we work together as a team, but also with the other existing stakeholders in the country and outside of Rwanda. So I think what we can accomplish is the most exciting part, rather than just the role itself.
Other than the role itself. Okay. We will get back to that. As I was, I would like to talk about the man who grew up on the cassava farm. There is this YouTuber, his name is Wodemaya. He likes to refer to himself as the village boy. Probably you have heard of him.
Yeah.
So you are, I guess, similar. The village boy, the one who grew up on the cassava farm. Tell us about that. How was it for you growing up in a rural place in Rwanda? Sorry, you said it was in
Ruhango district, Kinazi Ruhango district. Yeah.
All right. Yes.
Northern province.
So I guess you grew up hanging with goats and cows. Tell us about that. Just give us an imagery, because when I used to go to visit my grandparents in Nigeria, I guess that's Ruhango, I used to go look after cows. So what did you like the most? Tell us, give us a typical day of you as the cassava boy, the village boy that you were at that time.
It's difficult to describe everything on a single day. But what I really liked and still like about rural Rwanda, but also rural areas in general, is the freedom, the space. So you're not confined in a neighborhood or like in one street if you live in a city. But if you're in a village, you can enjoy spaces outdoors all the time. And I do think like people that grow up in the villages, they have that advantage that many young people that grow up in cities do not get to experience. Of course, there are also a lot of physical activities. So, for example, as you mentioned, taking care of domestic animals. There are also some activities in the farms. Of course, as a child, you don't get to do a lot of heavy lifting, but you do contribute to some activities in the farm as well. And I think seeing taking care of animals or taking care of crops is interesting in terms of helping children grow and understand that, like if you have milk at home, you know where it's coming from. It's not coming from a fridge somewhere in a supermarket, but you know that there is a cow behind it, and those cows need to be taken care of. That also means when you grow up and you start, interacting with farmers, as an example, you know that the food you're consuming at home, you know where it's coming from, you know all the efforts that that go behind that, making sure that you are able to eat 2 or 3 times per day. So I think it was great. It was a great being a child there, but also it was full of many lessons that I continue to use even today.
Wonderful. Now, where we grow up, one way or another influences who we are to become. Should we pursue that passion over who we were? Now, you said recently that on when you were doing an interview on the Connect Africa, that at some point you felt that the farmer's job was one for the losers. However, that's a sentiment you felt at some point. However, then you saw it as being of a noble job. Can you just walk us through that thought? How you felt that way, and then what changed your mind?
That's a great question. But look, we all know that a lot of people, especially in rural areas, that do not have any kind of formal education, they tend to be classified as farmers. And we also know that incomes in rural areas are not, as high as in the urban areas, urban centers, especially in Africa. In Europe or in the West, it can be different. But in Africa, when you go from rural areas to urban centers, income levels can vary significantly. So when I was growing up and I saw that, everybody around me was involved in agriculture, and whenever occasionally we saw somebody coming from the city, we always said, yes, that's the person I want to become. That's my role model. So you grow up with that feeling that people practice agriculture because they have no other alternative. That's where the idea of saying that I felt like agriculture was a job for losers came from. But at some point, when I started working after school, I got in touch with some Dutch researchers who are coming to Rwanda to do some socioeconomic research in agriculture, again on cassava. And I started working with them to go to households to really try to understand how does a farmer make decisions, like economic decisions, considering the fact that they only have income, like let's say once or twice a year when they sell their crop. So when I went into these details of how a farmer decides, like this small portion of my income, I'm going to dedicate it to send it to my children to school, or I'm going to dedicate it to healthcare, to whatever other expenses, I started slowly growing respect for these farmers, because I realized that a lot of people, so-called educated people out there, if you pick them and place them in a farm and put them in the situation, in the context, the operational context of a farmer, most of us will not survive there. because it's just too many decisions you have to make, and you have very limited sources of income. So trying to understand how farmers manage risk, how they make decisions, and how they still manage to go through life, sending their children to school, etc., made me realize that actually agriculture, so the people that practice agriculture, the farmers themselves, are people that ought to be respected, but also there are a lot of lessons that can be learned from them. And on top of that, of course, agriculture has a lot of impact on the overall economic picture of a country. Because, for example, in Rwanda, you know that when it's planting time, so like let's say like around January, around September, there is less cash flowing around the economy, around the country, and that's due to the fact that food is more expensive because farmers are using some of their previous harvest as seeds for new seasons. That also means that even the people in cities who are not directly involved in agriculture, they still have to buy food, and that food goes up when so that the usual supply and the demand equation. But basically there is less spare income to spend on like things like entertainment, buying clothes, like those kind of non-essential stuff. So, but also when you look again, like around June, around December, when it's harvest time, farmers have money, they have sold their crops to the market. There is more money in the economy, and the food is cheaper. So even for people who are not farmers, they also benefit from that abundance of food. So when you look at the overall picture, the macro picture, and you try to really see the role that agriculture plays in economies like an economy of Rwanda, it gives you additional incentive to actually realize that it's a very powerful sector that employs a lot of people, but also very crucial for the whole economy.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. Yesterday, it so happened that I was thinking about strategy, and I always have a conundrum in terms of using all the materials I have learned in the Western type of a format of learning, and the farmer came to mind because a farmer may have never gone to school, and let's say a farmer in Rwanda. However, and I believe you touched on that, they seem to grasp some of all of those economical understanding. So growing up, and I guess your parents, and what you saw, as someone who grew up on a farm, do you think that you benefited more in terms of your knowledge by sort of growing up and then seeing the practicality, like when they have to go and, let's say, cultivate, and then they have to do everything you said in terms of assessing the risk, in connection with now the farmer boy who became an intellectual? So when you make that connections, and then later on starting all the businesses, including the potato chips, so can you try and draw us the connections, and then I am looking to have an influence for you. Shape us that picture.
Look, when I was growing up and looking at my mother, the way she made decisions, and the beliefs she had, and how she worked with other people in her community to be able to achieve things that she could not do by herself, through associations, cooperatives, made me realize that even today in my work, you cannot have all the solutions. So you need to work with the others to be able to minimize the risks that you would have to, like incur if you're working on your own. But also in every business, there are a lot of unknowns. And the best way to minimize your chances of failing is to try to understand what others are doing, or what are the lessons like they have collected or gathered during their previous experiences, and try to build on that. I think that collective way of working that we see in farmers today, through cooperatives, through associations, trade unions, can really serve as a good example to help corporates or larger organizations avoid the arrogance of thinking that they have solutions or answers to everything. Rather try to work in partnership with peers, even if it means competitors. Try to find a way of cooperating, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the only one who wins anyway. Because you will still win, but if you win in a sea of losers, that's also not a sustainable victory for you. So I think that experience has really shaped my way of doing business, of doing work moving forward, and still affects me today.
Absolutely. I see some really, really good questions about your new role, and I think we are going to go into there. I think the viewers really wants to know about that. But before I do that, I'm just going to roll a clip that I have here. Hopefully, this clip is going to play. This is about your new company. They have this startup program that I'm just going to play for the viewers.
Okay.
Let's go. We are back. I like that, because if you win, we all win.
Absolutely, win-win.
Tell us about Norrsken Foundation.
Well, that's a good question. I also need to find a way of summarizing it. So Norrsken Foundation is it's a foundation that was started by a Swedish entrepreneur who wanted to help fellow entrepreneurs that do good. By doing good, I mean that helping solve some of the biggest challenges that we have in the world today. And so he wanted to equip them, to equip these entrepreneurs with the tools that they need to succeed and impact their local markets, but also global markets. So Norrsken Foundation is based in Stockholm, but also we are opening Norrsken Rwanda, which is the new role that I'm starting in now. And well, I'm really happy that you raised the questions about Norrsken, and I'm keen to discuss with your audience any questions they may have about what we're planning to do, or how we plan to do that.
Absolutely. My first question will be from me.
Please go on.
Why did they choose Rwanda specifically in the East Africa hemisphere? Why not Kenya, where the economy is bigger than Rwanda's, or Tanzania or Uganda? Why specifically in Rwanda?
Well, had they picked Kenya, I'm sure we would have questions also. Why not Rwanda?
Sure.
They want to make it clear that Norrsken couldn't be everywhere. They needed to decide, like where do we start, and then later look at ways of expanding it to other countries. So, so I just want to make sure that other countries, that do not feel excluded.
However, you can be biased though. It's okay. We are Rwandans. We can be biased. It is the beautiful country.
Well, it is a beautiful country, but also Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, other African countries, they are also very beautiful. And now you ask me that question, I'm responding to you as the person as the country manager for Norrsken in Rwanda. But basically, the main reason Rwanda was picked to house this first house, Norrsken house in Africa, was because of the climate, so the business climate. So we know that it's much easier to start a business in Rwanda. We also know that Rwanda is really making quite a lot of efforts to attract foreign investments, but also to position itself as the proof of concept country. So where innovative companies, innovative technologies can be tested at a national scale, because we also know that Rwanda is a very small country compared to these other neighboring countries. So it's easier for a startup, for a business to start in Rwanda, but also to be able to test their innovations at national scale before they can expand to much bigger countries like Kenya, you just mentioned, or Tanzania, or Nigeria, or Ethiopia, or even outside of Africa. So we have cases of many startups that have come to Rwanda, like the Ziplines of this world, have shown that like the technologies work, and then they have gone on like to conquer the world, basically. So we as Norrsken, we wanted to really create that environment, like support existing initiatives around attracting technology startups from all over the world into Rwanda, and then give them the fuel they need, first of all, to establish themselves in Rwanda, but also the fuel they need to grow to the bigger scale where they can solve those global challenges I was talking about earlier.
Yes, and I think among those startups is also Zaniheza. In fact, I like to say, if you can succeed in Rwanda, based on everything you just said, you can do well in all the other 54 countries in Africa. I will now take the questions from the viewers. So here we go. This is my fun part. Let me know if you can see the questions here.
Not yet.
This is the first question from Kanyoni, and he wants to know, can you see the question? Should I read it for you?
You can read it, just to make sure that I can see a question, but I'm not sure if we're talking about the same one. So please go ahead and read it.
All right, sounds good. So he's saying, Kanyoni, hi Kanyoni, thank you. He's one of our super fan. Greetings, Mr. Murasira. What is the role of a country manager in this case, in your new role?
Yeah. If I can try to summarize what a country manager does, is basically to guide the strategy, the country strategy, making sure that the global strategy is aligned with country priorities, but also that strategy is adjusted and adapted to local realities. But also a country manager is responsible of hiring a team. the team that executes that strategy. And hiring, but also making sure that the team is properly supported so that they can deliver on their specific roles. So in a summary, those two things are quite crucial components of a job of a country manager.
Sounds good. For the youth following us right now, you mentioned part of your task it is to hire. Is the company hiring right now in Rwanda? Are you looking for talents for the youth?
Oh, yes.
You
Top
are
talent.
top talent. So tell
Not
us a bit
average
briefly.
Not
So what is the
average
top talent? Not average. So what is the top talent? Tell us so that the youth watching can either go and apply or.
When I mean top talent, I mean like people who are passionate, people who do not want to be in a job just because there is a salary or some other kind of like financial benefits. That's a component of that, but that's not the main purpose that brings them there. But also we want people that that have a track record of doing great things, or if they are in entry roles, also people who have dreams to accomplish great things. And we want to be the vehicle that allows them to accomplish those great things. But passion is really the key here. Passion and knowing that as a team, also just not just us as a team, but also with our partners and stakeholders, we can accomplish great things. Those kind of people I really want to speak to them.
Do you know at this point in time how many staff you are going to have in the Kigali location? Is that something you can disclose or?
I don't know exactly the exact number yet, but also this is not about just the number. It's about making sure that we have the right people to execute our strategy. And where we are today, we are still defining this strategy, talking to different stakeholders to gather their expectations towards Norrsken, but also to understand what's being done today, what's there today, so that we avoid duplicating existing efforts. Instead, try to build on success stories that are already there in Rwanda, and also try to avoid some mistakes that may have occurred in the past. So human resource, like a human capital, is part of other types of capital, like financial capital. So you just allocate them according to the need. So I cannot say exactly how many people we're going to hire now, because that's still that exercise is still ongoing.
Yes, there's something you said that I really like.
Let me add something. Let me add something before I go even further than that. So really what Norrsken is trying to do is to support entrepreneurs, give them wings to fly, if I can use that analogy. So these startups are also going to hire people. And for me, that's if we can empower these startups to create more jobs, these entrepreneurs to hire more people, that's a better metric of success rather than the people that we hire ourselves as Norrsken. So we just want to empower startups so they can hire more people, creating more jobs, more sustainable, more safe jobs. So that component also needs to be clear to whomever is listening to us now.
No, thank you. We definitely need those wings to fly in Africa, because I am one of those entrepreneurs.
I know.
One thing that you said that I truly like was you are looking for top talent, and then you went on to mention that salary has to be the complement, passion has to be, and that is essentially what we say at Zaniheza. So in the 14 members of Zaniheza, I guess and say they are top talent if they are now watching, because I can see the passion. And we have to nurture that passion in Africa, because you just said that you want to provide the wings for the startups. We will take more questions shortly. However, I would like to connect to that with what do you feel are the key factors, ingredients to be a successful entrepreneur in Africa? Now, I know Africa is 54 countries. So let's say in Rwanda, in East Africa, how are you going to nurture that entrepreneurship? Part B of my question.
So if I understood you correctly, you're asking like how we as Norrsken, we are going to help entrepreneurs like grow those wings, or you're asking what's the key to being a successful entrepreneur, even if you are outside of our ecosystem?
Yes, both.
Can you help me understand exactly the question?
Yes. So part A to my question is, according to you, since you have for over the last 12 years or so, you have launched many startups, including your own. So according to you, what would you say are the key ingredients to be a successful entrepreneur in Africa? Mind you, we are now in the pandemic. And then part B is what you just said.
I don't think those lessons only or like ingredients only apply to African entrepreneurs. I also do not think that there is a magic formula to being a successful entrepreneur. But what I truly believe is that entrepreneurs are not afraid to fail. Failing to some extent is seen as not something to be encouraged. But if you are not willing to fail, then there are many chances that you will not even try anything. So you will, like people will be tempted, especially young people, they will be tempted to go through the conventional career path, which is, if you're lucky enough, you go through school, and then once you graduate, you try to seek a job within the government or within, NGOs, corporates, if you're lucky enough. But we have also to be honest with ourselves. We don't have enough employment opportunities today as we speak in Africa. So the more young people we have that are considering entrepreneurship, the better chances we have to create more jobs and absorbing the growing workforce that we have today that remains unemployed. So if you decided to take that path of entrepreneurship, of course, there are chances that you will not succeed. But the lessons you will have learned in the process are very crucial even for the future, for your own future, if you decide to go for a full-time job somewhere or you decided to take another career path. So I would really encourage young people to not fear entrepreneurship, but see it as a viable path. And even if you fail, of course, if you succeed, then you will be the superstar. But even if you fail, those lessons are going to be very, very important for your future. Something else that I would really like to add is that when you are an entrepreneur, of course, you need to think about around the idea, like what are you going to do, which kind of business are you going to start? And in that, I always say that timing is very crucial because, let's be honest with each other. Like if you start a travel business before this pandemic, then it's really not a good timing. Of course, it's unfortunate that nobody could predict that. Nobody saw this pandemic coming, but it just means like it was really bad luck, like bad timing. But if for example, you start, let's say, book, as an example, like a booking website, like a hotel booking website, right before a major event, let's say the African Cup of Nations, or like a major, conference. Then that could be helpful in terms of your timing, and could make a difference between success and failing. It does not mean that the entrepreneur who started in the wrong, we can be perceived as the wrong period, that entrepreneur is not smart. It's just that it does really help to time your launch, to time your idea properly. So having said that, it is very crucial, like just to summarize my answer here, it's very crucial for entrepreneurs to always be constantly aware of the developments in their target markets. Let's say if you're an entrepreneur in Nigeria, you need to know like what's happening in Nigeria. If you're an entrepreneur in Rwanda, you need to be like alert, like what's happening in Rwanda, so that you can take advantage of new developments, but also like new laws. Like for example, in Rwanda, like this past month of January, we had quite a number of laws around businesses being adopted by the parliament. So when you are aware of these developments, and also other developments in the marketplace, you are much more likely to launch an idea on a good with a good timing, which again increases your chances of succeeding.
Okay. Sounds good. Wow, we are like into 40 minutes into this, and I have all these interesting questions from the viewers and from me. However, let's just give the platform. Thank you so much, and see if we can answer some of the amazing questions here. So to all the viewers, new viewers as well, welcome, Murakaza Neza. If it's the first time to join us, tell me where you are. Um, and also kindly subscribe to our channel. We like to say, as the YouTubers, it's free. It does not cost you anything, and I believe you are also diving into the vlogger world. You do have an amazing channel, which if you can maybe kindly write down the link in the chat box, that will be amazing, and some of the youth can go and see what you are doing. I have a question from Dan here. It's quite a long question. Hello, Dan. By the way, thank you. Another super fun. Hi all. Sorry, I may have missed the intro, first a few minutes of the session. So his question was, what is Norrsken Foundation? How does it plug into the development of East Africa today, and ultimately its people?
Hi, Dan. I think maybe it's good also to direct people to the website of Norrsken. So it's norrskenfoundation.org. So they can also Google just Norrsken Foundation. They will find a direct link to our website. But how Norrsken plugs into the development of East Africa today and ultimately of its people, as I said earlier, Norrsken is trying to work with existing stakeholders and partners to build an ecosystem that allows entrepreneurs that are working to solve some of the world's biggest challenges to have that capacity to actually build and grow businesses that can deal with those challenges. So in East Africa, yes, we know that East Africa is one of the most enterprising regions in the world. We also know that East Africa is the fastest growing region in Africa. But you also realize that there are few businesses from East Africa that grow to the global level. And Norrsken wants really to identify, to work with institutions and other partners in East Africa to identify and support those entrepreneurs that will build solutions to challenges that we have in East Africa, and grow even to solve those challenges at a global level. Yeah, that's I think that's the summary of how Norrsken plugs into the development of East Africa.
Thank you. I have what looks like a comment from Bruce Sakindi, embracing the efforts to understand, analyze, connect, and reinvent channels of resources to achieve a product. I think he may be referring to one of the comments we may have had earlier on. Thank you for that. And then he continues by saying, on rural and city psychosocial perceptions of becoming, how do we redesign formal education success strategies to relative competitive context? I guess there's a question in here.
Yeah, well, so indeed, it is true that the education system we have today in Africa does not necessarily respond to the challenges we have. Yeah, we have. Primarily because of the way this education system was designed. So in many countries, you see that they still use the education system that was designed during colonial times. These were the times when Africans were taught to become assistants to the colonial powers. So this kind of education does not indeed help people to think critically and be able to, like use that education to solve the problems they have that are there in their communities, in their countries. So I'm not going to pretend that I know how education should be designed, but indeed we all agree that it should be redesigned to reflect the challenges we have on the continent. But I also do think that it's the responsibility of everyone to challenge the leaders, the people who are in charge of these education strategies, to make sure that actually that awareness is there. But also I encourage especially young people to look at alternative sources of knowledge. Education does not only mean the conventional academic path. So there are many courses you can take. You can also learn from successful entrepreneurs. You can learn from successful people in your community. And actually one of the objectives we have at Norrsken is to create role model entrepreneurs, that other young people can look at and say yeah, that entrepreneur has succeeded. He has made it or she has made it, and I want to try to imitate or learn from their experience. So that's what the education sector, people need to stop thinking about it as something that stops in the classroom. I mean, the academic path, but you need to be constantly learning and maybe use the academic experience to learn how to learn.
Absolutely. And as you say that you should look in the back, I am looking at all those books. Always learning. The youth should read. In fact, at Zaniheza, I'm hoping that we are going to have a library. I love to read. That self-continuing learning. So I'm hoping that with that library, we can have books where those young who can not find the books to read can come and then sit down and then sort of do that. We have so many good questions. I guess we need to keep going here. Bruce, I'm not sure how much time you have. Bruce Akindi
don't worry.
You are good. Okay. So he was kind enough to talk about your foundation and what they do. I guess he went and found that information. Thank you for that. Well done.
Thank you, Bruce.
And Joseph said, I'm enjoying you live. Thank you. Joseph happens to be our chief experience officer. He's the one who designs the products for Zaniheza. And we have a comment here from Dan. I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but often too many times I've seen similar establishments set up in Africa and the so-called entrepreneurial hub. That's part one. And then, but in the exploiting raw talents and rare talents, what are you doing different?
So I made it clear also at the beginning of this of this. I don't want to call it interview, but at the beginning of this conversation, we do not pretend to know the solutions, and we want to learn as much as possible from players on the field, and also to really look. Take lessons from others, that have tried before us to try to support entrepreneurs, so that first of all we avoid duplicating their efforts, existing efforts, but also if there are any other mistakes or failures that they have encountered, we try to avoid that as well. And what I can say that it's quite an advantage for Norrsken is that we have that that freedom to adjust to local realities. So we don't come with theories saying that this is what needs to be done. Everything you have been doing is wrong. No, that's not how we want to conduct a business. We want to make sure that we build on what has been working and we avoid what did not work.
Now, allow me to be blunt. I'm not sure if that's what was in the back of his mind, because I have a good friend of mine who likes to ask me really tough questions.
Please, I love tough questions.
Let's be blunt. Let's talk as brothers, and by that I mean Rwandans, Africans, and Black people. Everything sounds good. Some of us believes in having African solutions from Africans, by Africans, and for Africa. Now, everything we have heard about the foundation, I agree with, and we need those solutions, absolutely. Entrepreneurship, top talents to develop the local talents. However, it is still a company founded by someone in Sweden who I think at some point discovered Rwanda. Mind you, not born in Rwanda or not even raised. I think so. Am I right? In case I'm missing the bio here.
It's okay, go on. Go on. Yeah.
So we can still see it as a Western importation. Import. So as a Black entrepreneur, why an African entrepreneur, why would I have faith again into something that we know is not ours? It's not from our perspective. Because at some point in the conversation, you did mention about that colonial thinking. And that's what sometimes I fear, because I still see us looking on the outside to solve our own problems. And that's actually why I came back home, because I felt it was my time, not to pay my taxes here only for the last 20 years, but let me also go and contribute to my country somehow. Do you see? So I'm trying to be blunt here. So in that sense, as someone in Africa, why will I not say, here again, it is another white man who is trying to do something for us. And what are the true intentions behind it? Because remember, the priest also came to Africa with the intention of teaching us the word of God. We know what happened after that.
I think we are making a wrong comparison, and I also want to make it clear that I'm in this role as a Rwanda, as an African, and we are doing all we can to make sure that we get all the input possible from Rwandans, from East Africans, so that we do the right thing by the African or East African or Rwandan standards. So I think the comparison with the Catholic Church does not. I don't agree that it's a good comparison, and I am the country manager, and I was hired in that context of making sure that this is not a Swedish solution, but it's a solution that is owned and implemented by Africans, by Rwandans, by East Africans. And I also, outside of Norrsken, I want us to make sure that that's clear that we cannot work in isolation. So even if we say like we want African solutions for Africans, yes, that's true. But also we know that we live in a connected world. So we need to make sure that we pick lessons that have, like things that have worked elsewhere, and try to find a way of contextualizing it rather than, like categorically rejecting them. Otherwise, we cannot take advantage of the good things that happen elsewhere. And it would also be difficult for us as Africans to trade with the rest of the world if we try to say, like, let's reject everything and only work with what's, what we have here. We're not an island. So I really think that's clear to people, to anyone who may have that that perception that what we're trying to do is a Swedish thing or it's white man things. I really do not agree with that thinking.
I believe that it could be seen as not the right comparison, but those concerns can be there, and there could be some validation to it, give or take. Because if we break it down, you like to have questions. I am one who like to be frank. There are certain elements that, if you look at the model, it will be similar to what we have seen during the post-colonial time. And therefore, on this platform, I would like to essentially have that frank conversation, as much as it may feel uncomfortable, with all the respect, so that we can give voice for the youth.
I get you, but there is no model yet.
Yeah.
So there is no model yet. We are designing that model now.
Yes.
So let's also that be clear. There is no model yet. So
There's
it's
no model.
really too early to jump to any of those conclusions. We are designing the model as we speak, and this model is being designed by Rwandans, by East Africans.
Great. Someone said that at least they gave a key role to an African. That's Kanyani. I guess that is a positive. Let me just go through these ones in a way that they make sense. I think he just added to what we were saying, Dan, that is exactly the point I'm trying to relay across. But yeah, there is a limit to 200 characters per questions. So he goes on further. Why should we trust Norrsken Foundation? Why are they to do differently? And I think you touched on that a little bit, but can you quickly just add more to that?
I made it clear from the beginning that we don't have solutions. We don't have all the solutions. And anyone who has some ideas, we are very welcome. They are very welcome to share with us. And also, I think that's one of the reasons also I accepted to be part of this conversation, because yes, I want to share, but also want to learn. So if you have any inputs, we are really open to that. And yeah, if needed, I can also share my my email address. But let it be clear that we're trying to avoid duplicating existing efforts. So let that be clear to Dan, because I noticed that he's the one who is asking those questions. But let it be clear that we are here to learn, and we and also like build on what's already in place, not to duplicate them or not to replace them.
Absolutely. I'm just going to add one more question here from Dan,
Yeah.
who would like to know who are your current stakeholders and partners, and what is are their long-term goals, and how does he become a partner? I guess you said the email maybe.
Yeah, I think sending an email is best, but if I don't know how much Dan knows about startup ecosystem. So our key partners are, of course, governments, also startups, investors, corporates, some other foundations, but we are still open to new kind of partnerships, any kind of partnerships, as long as they contributes to our goal, which is helping entrepreneurs grow to solve local and global challenges.
Thank you. I will now just ask this other question before as we conclude. It's already been 1 hour. This is quite amazing. Thank you for your time.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Interesting conversation. I love it.
Thank you. Similar here. Let's talk about travel. What's your favorite African destination when you travel? Do you have any?
Kinazi, my home village.
Kinazi. If someone was to come to Kinazi, what would they see? What would they do? Why should we travel? So that I, as an user, perhaps I can have as the next destination.
Yeah, they will see hardworking people. I personally believe that the best way to travel is to get to experience life as locals do. So I would encourage anyone who goes there to talk to people, try to find what inspires them, what their passions are. I'm sure like along the way you would learn, you will enjoy, of course, the views, like the rural settings, but also you will learn a lot from those hardworking people.
Absolutely. And what do they grow primarily? What's the crop there?
Mostly cassava. Some
Cassava,
grow
okay.
maize, some grow some beans, but it's mostly cassava.
And what is the favorite way that you like to have the cassava cooked or as a dish? Because I know there are many ways.
As a fufu, as a bugari.
As a bugari, you don't like it when it is cooked with beans. When it's mixed with beans. I
Fufu
believe
is my
that's another
favorite.
way.
Fufu is my favorite.
And what do you like to eat fufu with?
Any types of vegetables.
Okay, like beans or
yeah, beans. Like 95% of Rwandan households, they eat beans every week. So beans, definitely.
Now, agriculture. I think Rwanda is now trying to become a middle income country. And I can't help myself but wonder, when that goal is achieved fully, 100%, what happens to the farmers' agriculture? Because I'm trying to look at the Singapore format. What happens? Because Rwanda had been primarily 80% or so, according to some numbers. But now I think is there going to be a substantial change? What happens to our farmers' agriculture? Any thoughts on that? Like that means no more fufu now.
No, there will always be food,
Yes.
but probably less farmers, less individuals farming, and more consolidated land. So that means like today we have an average half a hectare per farmer. So I think in the future it's going to be like 2 hectares per farmer. But that means there will be less people in rural areas who are involved into farming activities.
Absolutely. So when that happens, then because the land in Rwanda Rwanda is still a small country, and when that happens, I'm just wondering how Rwanda is going to look like in like 50 years from now, even in 20 years, because Rwanda seems to be changing, and the landscape itself. So when that happens, um, and I guess there will be a reduction in the farmers, I assume. Now, where are we going to grow the cassava? Do you see Rwanda becoming more an importer of raw, um, of more of the raw materials?
Yields are going to grow. Like the productivity per land is going to grow because you can use tractors. You can use mechanization to grow more food on the same land. So I don't think the country is going necessarily to need to import food because we have not yet reached optimum productivity in our farms.
Okay. Now, I know that Norrsken is going to be located in the former Belgium school, right in the city center.
Yeah.
Are there any reason why they chose that location? And I'm really looking forward to the new structure they are going to put in place. Can you tell us in that? Are you going to be is it being built right now? Are you going to be using local materials, environmental ideas built into it? Tell us about that location.
Yeah, it's being built now, and the first phase will be launched sometime towards the end of this summer, and the second phase will be opened in the second quarter of next year. Indeed, like as much as possible, we try to use local materials, but also we try to build a very green building. And I think once it's complete, it will be the greenest building in Kigali. Of course, the location in the city center is also an advantage because there's more traffic. So the startups or any other ecosystem players who will be operating from our premises will have direct access to the city center, to traders, to corporates, banks that are there. Hotels, like guests who are visiting the country, they'll just be staying next door. Embassies are also just next door. The big central market in Kigali is just a walking distance. So for an entrepreneur, it's the right place to be. The location itself is quite another value for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. You talked about timing. Now, I was kind of wondering, with this pandemic, we are all becoming remote now. Do you think with this new format of working and the pandemic and being remote, are there going to be any changes as you complete the new location? Since I guess we are all working from home mostly.
Indeed, there may be some changes in general in how people work, but I believe that that sense of community, of physical interaction is also not going to disappear just because of the pandemic. But I think there will be more hybrid types of interactions. And Norrsken House in Kigali will be fitted with the latest communication technologies, so that if you are there physically, you can interact easily with people who are located in other places all over the world. But that sense of community, of physical interaction is going to be there, and the building is designed to stimulate just that.
Absolutely. Sounds great. I'm just going to add one more question or one more compliment, and then we're going to wrap up. Time flies when you are having an amazing chat. This is from Dan. So right up my street, Murasira, as a program director myself, I have a long list of lessons log I can share with you to access. So I guess you will have to link.
Thank you.
We will have to find a way to link up, maybe via LinkedIn, because I know you do respond to the messages. Perhaps that's one way they can find you on the LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and start from there. Well, eh, I just want to add one more thing about the youth before I forget.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna give you the platform, the youth in Rwanda, in Africa. What would you like to say to them?
Well, just think of entrepreneurship as a viable path, as a viable career path. Not just think about finishing school and start applying for jobs here and there, but also think about how you can start your own business and create those jobs instead of trying to seek one yourself.
That's brief and to the point. Thank you.
My pleasure.
It's been such an honor to host you on our platforms and here's a channel. I hope you already subscribe and you keep on watching us as well. I would like to wish you success in your new function, in your new role. I am really looking forward to see how you support startups in East Africa through the foundation, Norrsken. And I think what I rolled that clip is the program that I think it's happening right now. Can you just touch on that for those who want to apply for it?
The accelerator program, yes, it's running now. The deadline is February 28th. So you can go to our website and you will find a link to Norrsken Accelerator.
Okay, and they just go on the website. Can you just briefly talk about some of the key criterias?
Well, you need to be a startup, so a company. You cannot apply as an individual, and you also need to be working on a solution that helps solve some of the biggest challenges we have today. You also need to have some degree of traction, not just at the idea stage, but having already launched. The rest is quite flexible, and it
Thank
doesn't
you.
matter which country you come from. Even if you are from Antarctica, you're welcome.
Antarctica. All right. You heard Mr. Murasira. Please apply. So we will conclude here. Murakoze cyane. I guess good night, and maybe we will have another chat.
Before you close, Charles, I have one last message.
Go ahead.
I just want to encourage everyone to follow our social channels for Norrsken and try to give us as much feedback as possible and ideas. So we are open to ideas, as I said. So all your feedback, all your ideas are very welcome. And yeah, we're looking forward to really bringing change in entrepreneurial scene in East Africa and Africa as a whole. And we can use all the support possible, including from anyone that is listening to you now.
Thank you very much. At Zaniheza, we like to say Tuzar Gubaka. Absolutely. So Turikumye, we are together. Nous sommes ensemble, and hopefully we will have another chat. Thank you for your time, and thank you to the viewers as well. You know what to do: comments, channel, and follow them as well. Norrsken. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Thanks. Bye.
Pleasure.
All right, the viewers, thank you for anyone who watched until now. That was Mr. Murasira. It's been a pleasure to host this interview. Look forward. We have more. We have so much more happening tomorrow, after tomorrow. Keep on following us. Help us reach 5,000. Why not 10,000? Look, subscribing is free, okay? Just hit that button. Tell your friends. Tell your cow. we have amazing content. Look forward to even more lives and more other interesting videos on travel, Rwanda, and business. To that, ta-da!